Good evening. It's such a pleasure to be here from Johannesburg and to celebrate Echoing Green, an organization that truly changed my life. And I hope that my jet lag does not hide the excitement that I feel to be here sharing a little bit about our story. In 2006, I just finished graduate school. And as Cheryl said, my colleague Fred Swaniker from Ghana and I from the United States, we were chasing a dream of building an institution that would play a powerful role in shaping Africa's future. Our premise for African Leadership Academy was relatively simple. We believed that we could create shared prosperity and lasting peace on the African continent if we could identify, develop, and connect Africa's next generation of leaders. The problem, of course, was that we were relatively unproven entrepreneurs, and we needed about $3 million to get started. Our big break was winning the Echoing Green Fellowship. The application and the interview process honed our plans, honed our ideas. They helped us learn how to communicate them. But then our fellowship class, which included people like Sasha, who spoke previously, they were the group of peers we relied on. They inspired us. They helped us brainstorm our way through different challenges. They kept us, we kept each other moving forward. And a great point of pride for us is to see what all of our classmates in the 2006 fellowship class are doing today. In the 7 years since we became Echoing Green Fellows, African Leadership Academy has blossomed. As Cheryl mentioned, we've brought 500 young leaders selected from over 15,000 students nominated in 46 countries all over the African continent to our campus in Johannesburg. That's not quite as selective as the Echoing Green Fellowship, but it is more selective than Harvard. At ALA, these young leaders enter an innovative 2-year program that's designed to prepare them intellectually for university, but also to foster their capacity as entrepreneurial leaders. So while completing their secondary school coursework, often making up substantial gaps that they've faced, every student launches and leads a business or a social venture over 2 years on our campus. The results from our first few years are fairly impressive. In 5 weeks, we'll graduate our 4th class, and they will move on to university. Over the past 4 years, our 400 graduates have accepted scholarship money from leading universities around the world that totals over $43 million US, an impressive multiple on the funding we required to get started. They attend leading universities all over the world. A number of them are actually here in New York City at Barnard, at Columbia, and at NYU. But they're not just scholars. They've started 42 businesses and social ventures, many of which continue to operate and have impact to this day. 2 examples. A student from our first class, Eddie Okech, founded an organization when he graduated in 2010 called Peace for Africa and Economic Development. It was an idea that he nurtured on our campus. Today, from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, he manages a full-time staff of 11 in Nairobi. They have reached over 5 million youth in Kenya with their peace-building programs over the last 3 years. And I believe they played a role in ensuring that the 2008 post-election violence in Kenya did not repeat itself in 2013. Another example, 2 wonderful young women from Morocco, just 18 years old, decided to launch something called the National Entrepreneurial Camp. Jihad Hajouji and Hafsa Anwar, they saw entrepreneurship among young men and young women as the key to their country's future and the key to ensuring that there would be peace and stability, because there's a staggering unemployment rate in Morocco among youth. They're running their 4th iteration of the National Entrepreneurial Camp this year. They're the trainers. Their participants are typically older than they are. They've got the sponsorship of the leading companies in the region, as well as a number of global foundations. It's just amazing. In describing our model for leadership development, which is potential plus practice plus opportunity, I've often used the example of Bill Gates, talking about his path from Seattle, Washington, to leading the global revolution in personal computing. Every day on the African continent, thousands of children are born with Gates-like potential. It's our job to nurture them. to give them the space to practice, to connect them to catalytic opportunities. This is the great promise of ALA, and it's a promise that's personified by young leaders like Paul Lerem of South Sudan. I'd like to ask Paul to stand. He's over there at table number 21. Now, some of you may recognize Paul because he was profiled by Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times last year. He fled war in South Sudan when he was a young boy. He survived tuberculosis in a refugee camp in northern Kenya. But today, he's a successful sophomore, a highly successful sophomore at Yale University. He's an African Leadership Academy graduate. He has a world of possibilities in front of him, and I believe he can and will play a role in shaping Africa's future. Now, our journey at ALA has just begun, and we seek to build an institution that will outlast all of us in this room, be a primary point of connection for leaders from across Africa. As we move forward, we need to work with our networks, people like you, to connect our young leaders to catalytic opportunities that can help them shape Africa's future. And for some of our graduates, this has meant plugging into the Echoing Green network. One of the really exciting things about Echoing Green, as like a gift that keeps on giving for us, is that a number of the Echoing Green Fellows have taken on African Leadership Academy graduates as interns. Jody Wu in Tanzania, David Auerbach in Kenya, Deborah Nkora in Ghana, to name a few. When we're done, we hope that these leaders will work together to create the change that they seek on the continent, building massive enterprises, chains of schools, health clinics, manufacturing firms, small-scale power generation, but also leading governments, leading multinational organizations, working together to drive movements in arts and culture. That's enough about ALA. After all, we're here for Echoing Green, and ALA is just one of many organizations that Echoing Green has supported in the field of education. Since its inception, Echoing Green has funded more than 120 social entrepreneurs working in education reform, nearly a quarter of the fellowship portfolio. They have launched more than 1,000 educational sites in 42 countries on 6 continents, serving millions of young people. They include the likes of Teach for America, the Seed Foundation, Citizen Schools, College Summit, Blue Engine, which was in the New York Times today, and Educate. And as Cheryl was mentioning, an early generation of fellows like Wendy Cobb, they defined the education reform agenda in the US. And one of the things that's so exciting for me in being part of this network today is the way that it is shaping the education agenda around the world. Not only are we creating opportunities for young people like Paul, but we're creating systems and ladders for individuals to rewrite their own history and create our shared future. As one example of the Echoing Green network in action, it's a privilege for me to see Benson Wareje of CIOTA, Kaborwa's International Youth Organization to Transform Africa, here as an Echoing Green Fellowship finalist. Benson, can you stand for a minute? So, a fun story. I first became aware of Benson when one of his co-founders, an amazing boy named Joseph Munyambanza, was nominated to join our first class at African Leadership Academy in late 2007. He was nominated by a young Amherst graduate who was working in a refugee camp in Uganda. That young Amherst graduate was a future Echoing Green Fellow, Eric Glustrom. And his pilot project at Changwali Refugee Settlement, which is a place that is near and dear to both of our hearts, became Educate, an organization that I've watched impact thousands of youth across Uganda. Educate does simply amazing work. Now, Benson and Joseph were 2 of Eric's earliest students, and now to see them having launched their own organization and to be here as Echoing Green Fellowship finalists is just an amazing example of the exponential impact of Echoing Green in action. And I hope that some of you will have a chance to speak with Benson this evening. But Benson, the tough news for you is that these pitches have been absolutely amazing, so I hope you're ready tomorrow. And I now have the pleasure of inviting 4 finalists in the field of education to take the stage for their pitches.